Jeff, let's we'll talk some baseball right off the bat. Let's start with Cal because he's obviously the story, and he's gonna hit in the Derby. Any suggestions for Cal in the Derby?
Hit the ball over the fence.
You haven't done like a full Derby study on how to win the Derby?
Well, no catcher's ever won the Derby.
Yeah.
He'd be the first to do that.
How about hitting, the switch hitting thing? Like, there's some real questions for Cal here.
I know we've seen it with a switch hitting catcher. In fact, and Adley Rutschman absolutely went off, and I believe still didn't advance or maybe advanced one round. When it comes to the home run derby, I think there's quite a bit of luck involved. Like, are you feeling it that day or not? Is your swing grooved or not? And it's going to be interesting for me to see, okay, does he go right-handed, take a timeout, and then go left-handed? Does he go right-handed a full round and then left-handed the next round? During BP, is he feeling one of the swings a little bit more than the other and decides to go with a hot hand? I think here would be my advice for Cal Raleigh. Just have fun. This is such a cool thing to be in the Derby, and I've seen guys psych themselves out, not because of the pressure, but because they just, they're competitors and they want to do well, and they wind up overexerting themselves and blowing themselves out early. So I think the advice, if I had any, would be to hydrate and pace yourself.
How big a deal are these next three in New York against Aaron Judge?
I think it's how big of a deal are the next six, right? Because if you're the Mariners, don't you look at this like this is our potential division series and LCS matchup? Like these are potentially the two best teams in the American League besides us. And the Astros have certainly worked themselves into the mix, and the Blue Jays have been fantastic and are on an absolute heater lately and look like a very good team. But I think the M's, if you look at where they're at right now, 6 games over 500, coming off a literal series shutout against the Pirates, they're feeling themselves a little.
I think that's all totally fair collectively. I guess I am just individually for Cal Raleigh, for Aaron Judge, for New York, for a market in Seattle where, let's face it, when they play the late game windows and it's first pitch 11 o'clock on the East Coast, how many writers, how many baseball voters, how many of those guys are watching this versus, all right, here we go. Here's 3, right, wrong, or indifferent. Here's 3 against Aaron Judge in his park for these two that, as Salk said, have really delineated himself in the MVP conversation.
I see what you're saying. In that respect, as a former MVP voter, I never really looked at individual series, particularly series in July, as being some sort of some sort of thing that I took into account. So that's me. Maybe other voters are different. I just think it's cool that the two of them are going to be playing against each other, and we're going to see the two powerhouses of the sport in 2025 go head to head, where their teams are in very similar positions. Actually, I talked with Cal earlier this week and brought up Aaron Judge, and it was very interesting to see what his perspective is on Judge and the sort of the reverence that people around the sport have, not for just Judge as this unbeatable player, but Judge as a person and Judge as a leader, and how Cal Raleigh is embracing that role more this year than he has in the past, and is taking cues from how Aaron Judge does conduct himself inside of the clubhouse and with his teammates. I think he looks at him, I want to be like Aaron Judge as a player, sure, but every bit as important for the role that I have now with the Seattle Mariners, I want to be like him as a person too.
I went to the game last Thursday and saw your beloved Royals there. Who's the manager of the Royals?
Number one, they're not my beloved Royals,
please.
but No, I
Just
say
kidding.
the same to you.
I know. Who's the manager of that team?
Matt Quatraro.
What he I don't understand him. It worked out for him, but he's got a 1-run lead. He's got men on second and third in the ninth with 2 outs and Cal Raleigh up, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll pitch to him." What am I missing? In what world would you pitch to Cal Raleigh in that spot?
The one where you get him out.
Yeah, I mean, it worked, but gosh, I was at the game. I was like, well, clearly they're going to walk. I was already thinking about what the matchup would look like with the Rosarena, and who, by the way, is hot also. Maybe that has something to do with it. But I'm just surprised when anybody pitches in a big spot to guys like Cal or Judge or Ohtani or any of these guys at this point. Just if you have an opportunity to do it, don't do it.
You know what I think it is, and I don't have the data of that particular matchup in front of me, but there are a lot of times where you'll have like a sheet if you're a manager, and on one side will be your pitchers, like in the up down column, and going across will be their hitters. And there will be, it's almost color coded, right? Like the intersection. And who was pitching there? Was it Carlos Estevez?
Yep.
Okay. I am guessing the color where Carlos Estevez and Cal Raleigh met was red. Like, yeah, you can go get him. Like, he's susceptible. He's vulnerable. This is a good matchup. And you gotta trust your people sometimes. At the same time, you also have to acknowledge the situation. And listen, I'm with you. I probably would have walked him too, but sometimes there are numbers that we are not privy to that make those decisions make some more sense. So I'm not going to sit here and say, "What's this guy doing? Is he an idiot?" And no,
let's all do that.
Yeah, I did that. So let me ask you this. So while I was at that game, I was there with my kids, and my youngest is 11. She's getting pretty into baseball, watching with me every night. And one of the really fun parts of taking her to the game was just talking through all of those scenarios with her, like, hey, if they do this, they're going to do that. Hey, this is a really big at bat with Julio because if they get him up, if Julio gets on, then they got to face Cal here in the 7th. Otherwise, Cal might not come up again. So we're kind of going through all of that, and I was realizing that is one of, if not my very favorite part of baseball. And as I was thinking about talking to you today, I don't know that I've ever asked you, what is your favorite part of baseball? What is your favorite thing about this game?
That every time I go to the ballpark, I see something different. And I love that baseball is a gift that you can open and you never know what's going to be inside. And I suppose that you can say the same thing about all sports. And so maybe that's more of a general sports take than baseball, but I think baseball gives you so many different permutations and so many different possibilities of what's going to happen during any given game, that the wide variance of outcomes and the fact that I truly can't predict what's going to happen in the game to any extent. Like in football, you have a decent sense of how things are going to turn out. And maybe there's scheming and strategy that's involved that mitigates some of those things, but I know if Patrick Mahomes is going against the defense, he's usually going to be on the positive side of it. In the NBA, it's a very star-driven game. The ball is in the hands of the stars far more often than it is everybody else on the team. So you know that offense is going to flow through them, and that's going to be, that's going to dictate who wins the game, how your stars play. In baseball, it's anyone. In baseball, Miles Mastrobuoni can have a ridiculous week, or Donovan Solano can carry a team. And I just love that about the game, that it is so unpredictable and it always leaves me satisfied.
Well, you said to us last week, is you prep for this segment every single week. One of the things you do is go to that Baseball Savant page and you dig into one Julio Rodriguez. And he may be the king of permutations in 2025 because every week, as you said to us last week, is kind of a different sample size. And this homestand was not a good one for him. I think he was 2 for 27. He had, a nice double against Skeens, but that was about it once again. So as we dig into the Julio Rodriguez week-to-week conversation, what stands out now?
Well, he's an all-star, and I appreciate that somebody's defensive contributions can be recognized as his were. But Brock, I also want to just say I don't look at 1 week samples as being indicative of a whole lot other than how somebody is feeling at a particular time. And I'm much more interested in how Julio Rodriguez fares this week because these are the players and these are the pitchers he's going to be seeing in the postseason, right? Like this is the kind of week where if Julio Rodriguez steps up and has some big games, it makes you Mariners fan feel a lot better because that's what you want to see. You want to see when it's prime time, how is this guy going to handle it? How is he going to react? What is he going to be? And we know he wants to be the guy. We know he wants to be in the center of everything, but we need to see it. Show us what you got.
We are, 24 days away, something like that, from the trade deadline. So there's sort of two different types of conversations, I think, around the trade deadline. There's the guys that are most likely going to get moved, and then there's the dare to dream conversation. So let me put these three names in the dream conversation, a 10% chance or less that they get dealt, let alone to the Mariners. But Joel Sherman brought up Acuna and then put the Mariners in the conversation. So I'll ask you, what would it take, besides everything, to get the Braves to trade Acuna?
Oh boy. I don't think it's going to happen. And here's the thing. I found Joel's argument to be about as compelling as an argument you can make to trade a superstar. But you don't trade guys like that. You just don't. You especially don't trade guys like that who are signed to well under market contracts. So I don't think that's a reality. But what would it take? Colt Emerson, Johnny Farmelo, Durangelo St. John, and Ryan Sloan.
I'd make that deal.
That's it.
Sold.
Would you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And if they wanted closer to major league pitching, take Bryce Miller instead of one of the other two pitchers. To put Ronald Acuna on this team, pair him with Julio and Cal and Randy. I mean, yeah, absolutely, I would do that. And you get him for 4 playoff runs for 3.5 years at $17 million apiece. Yeah, where do I sign up for that? Absolutely, 100% yes.
All right. I might be light on that, by the way. This is not going to happen, so I haven't even thought about it. But
all right, well, let me give you.
In my head, that's where it was.
How about Matt Olson and how about Alex Bregman?
No, and no. I don't think either is going to move. And Bregman, I could have seen. Bregman, I could see more than Olson. I just have a hard time believing the Braves are going to trade a first baseman who's signed for a pretty reasonable deal, like $21 million a year. Hometown kid who, they didn't give up a whole lot in hindsight to go get him, but he's a really good player. And the Braves want to keep winning, even though they're not, even though they haven't for 2 years right now. You're an objectively worse team without Matt Olson than you are with him. And as much as their farm system needs an infusion of talent, I just don't see Alex Anthopoulos moving any of his core guys at this point.
Do baseball GMs react in any way similar to NFL GMs in this sense, Jeff? As you're having this conversation, I'm kind of just thinking out loud of, wasn't it just this week that Rizzo was fired in Washington? that you looked at that trade of Soto and it was like, oh, look at the haul it brought back and look at all these amazing pieces. And some of them are doing great things, right, at the major league level. But yet my job just got terminated, right? Even though I supposedly made a home run kind of move. Do those circumstances in any way impact the Braves, impact these teams that may be looking at it going, geez, should I do this? Should I reset it? Because even if I win this trade, maybe a couple years from now, I don't have job security, even if these guys are playing, because this isn't the best. And do they look at their peers in the major league level as much as it feels like they do at the NFL level? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think they absolutely look at the haul that the Nationals got in the Juan Soto trade and say to themselves, Well, that's kind of interesting. It's the same way that with the Mark Teixeira trade in Texas, it wasn't quite the same in the end, but at the time getting Elvis Andrews and a bunch of others, that was seen as something of a coup. Not like this. I mean, James Wood, I don't know how many guys under 23 I would put in the Hall of Fame, but I think James Wood, if he stays healthy, is going to be a Hall of Famer. Like that's how good the power is. Like he is a spectacularly talented hitter. And Mackenzie Gore is second behind Zach Wheeler in the National League in strikeouts. And C.J. Abrams has the best offensive season so far of any shortstop in the National League. One of those in the deal, you did okay. Two of those is a bonanza, and three is an all-timer. And we're not even talking about Robert Hassel, who's going to be a fourth outfielder in the big leagues, and Harlan Susana, who's throwing 102 at Double-A at like 20 years old. So they did well, and other teams look at it like we could do well too. But I mean, then you look at the Mookie Betts trade. Oops. And then you look, and then you look at other trades. I don't know if the Rafael Devers trade is going to be like that, but you don't see stars move often for a reason. It's because they just cannot match up on that talent. And in that situation with the Padres and the Nationals, the Padres were desperate, and AJ Preller loves stars, and he was going to get one for 2 playoff runs, and it was worth it because they thought that they could continue building their farm system. Their farm system right now, though, is not good. They've got Leo DeVries and Ethan Salas, and beyond that, there's not a whole lot. And because of that, the Padres' future doesn't look quite as bright as it would have if they had, Jackson Merrill and James Wood teaming up side by side.
You, Jeff, you mentioned the series shutout of the Pirates. It was pretty remarkable to watch. It wasn't even just that they didn't give up a run. The Pirates essentially didn't even threaten to score a run in the 3-game series. And the time through before that, you look at the other 2 guys in the rotation right now. Logan Evans went 5 2/3, didn't allow a run. Logan Gilbert had the worst start of the 5. He allowed 1 run in his last start. So they went through a full turn in the rotation. I know Hancock was in there at the time, but the 5 guys currently in the rotation gave up 1 run total in their last start. What are we looking at right now with this rotation, and what could it look like for the next 3 months to finish this up?
What we're looking at is it's not quite the rotation that everybody envisioned when we were looking at the best case scenario for the Seattle Mariners in 2025, but I mean it's pretty close, and it shows you when you have starting pitching like this, you can go and dominate series. And to me, the takeaway I have from this, the Pittsburgh Pirates lineup is awful, just top to bottom, really, really bad. So there's that part of it, but at the same time, you got to go out and execute your pitches. The Pirates roster isn't so bad that if you leave a middle fastball, it's going to get hit. Like they're talented enough to do that still. What this shows me is that the Mariners starting rotation right now, especially, is feeling good and feeling healthy and feeling right. And considering where we were, 6 weeks ago, where there were questions about Kirby, where there are questions about Gilbert, what are the Mariners going to get from them this year? This has to make you feel really good about not just the present, but what those next 3 months hold. And that if they stay healthy, this could be a special run from this team.
Jeffrey, this will be the last time we talk to you before the draft on Sunday. The Mariners have a pretty premium pick at number 3. Are you hearing any whispers, any hints, any ideas of how that could fall 1, 2, 3 on Sunday?
Oh, I'm glad you framed it that way, because everything the Mariners do depends on what happens in front of them. They have a bunch of different routes that they could take. They could go college starter, and if Cade Anderson drops to the number 3 pick, would not surprise me if the Mariners took him. Liam Doyle from Tennessee with a huge fastball left-handed in the mix too. And if you go college starter, it's almost trying to mitigate against another of those starters who's closer to free agency potentially leaving. Which nobody wants to hear, but that's a reality. That's how you have to plan. They could go with Ivo Arquette, a giant shortstop from Oregon State, who has put up numbers throughout his career. They could go with Seth Hernandez, a right-handed pitcher from Corona High in Los Angeles, who's might be the most talented player in the draft. They could go with Ethan Holiday, Matt Holliday's kid, who, I think he was going to go with the first overall pick before the Nationals fired Mike Rizzo. Now that's a little bit more in question. They could go with Eli Willits, Reggie Willits' son, or Billy Carlson, who's Seth Hernandez's teammate at Corona, both high school shortstops, or JoJo Parker. They could go under slot. They could spend more money later in the draft. They could go over. I mean, the world is the Mariners' oyster right now.
What's the home run?
Well,
What's the home run? What is the very best case scenario for them?
Cade Anderson drops to 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
If that doesn't happen, then what? What's the second best?
I don't know that there is a second best.
If that's the case, then Cade Anderson's probably not going to drop to 3, right? I mean, because wouldn't that then be the best case for everyone?
Yeah, I think there's a scenario in which Holiday goes 1-1, in which Liam Doyle goes second to the Angels, in which Anderson drops to the Mariners. I think it's unlikely, but I could see something like that happening, because the Nationals are not winning anytime soon, and Holiday is a let's win 4 years down the road pick. Doyle is the kind of guy who could be rushed to the big leagues tomorrow, though I suppose Anderson too. But the Angels, I think, want to go with somebody who could be there faster than anyone else, and that's the scenario in which Anderson goes to 3.
30-second answer or less. How are the Astros doing this?
Devil magic.
I only needed 2 seconds. Even better.
And I'm going to use my other 25 seconds now to tell everybody that either on Sunday or Monday there will be a very large, in-depth feature on Cal Raleigh running on the ESPN.com website by yours truly.
Oh, wow.
And I've been talking with people all week and am very excited for this story. So keep an eye out. It's going to be a good one.
Tell me why. Why this story? Why will this be the best Cal story we've read?
Because I'm writing it.
You know who I'm going to play that for is your buddy Greg. I'm going to play that cut for Greg Bishop the next time he's in.
Yep.
He is going to kill me for it.
Oh, he is. In fact, Brock is out next Tuesday. Are you in with us Tuesday, even though it's the All-Star game? Can you join us still?
I'll try, yeah.
Because I'm thinking I might try to get Greg in here for that.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, you should.
All right. Well, I don't want to do it if you're not available. I'll text you later. There you go. There's Jeff Passan. Joins us every Tuesday, hopefully next week as well. And Brock.
Because I wrote it.
Because I wrote it. We'll be right back.